change the designation from general manager to executive director. And everybody screamed in the office, and everybody was shouting that our guy has been promoted executive director. My name is Francis Daniel Okumagba, a mentor, business strategist, and wealth coach. I help put smiles in the faces of people, showing them how they can succeed in what they do or choose to do. I also help businesses. I'm today the founder and president of FMG Platform Empowerment Company Limited. I was born into the Okumagba dynasty, the famous Okumagba family of Warri, Delta State. I have a very, very good upbringing from a very strict disciplinarian as a father. But I grew up with my auntie, who was very, very traditional and lived in an environment that I call a village. So I was exposed to a lot of things that opened me up to understanding how domestic things are done, how you cook, how you do so many things that I've used to improve my life today. People don't know that I've gone through a background where I went to the farm, I could do gari, I could do popo gari, I had carried wood, firewood on my head when I was growing up. And I got back into my father's life when I turned 6. Enrolled into a school called Agbasa Primary School. And I was also exposed to being independent in the very young age. Went to school, was not as sharp, was average, but I did very well because I was very focused because of the local sense and street sense that I was exposed to in the village environment. So I was a local boy posted into a civilized environment who had to survive. I went through school, finished school, struggled through school, did not go into secondary school at the age where my mates were going to secondary school. I spent an additional year in primary school. But when I got into the secondary school, the famous Urobo College, Efuru Warri, I was exposed again to a very tough environment because I went to a single boys' school. And in that school, it was survival of the fittest. There were a lot of things that we did in trying to show that we are men. Wake up as early as 6 a.m. in the morning. You go and clear grass, sweep the compound, and do a lot of chores that has today molded me into what I am today. I made my early friends in the secondary school. Went to secondary school, became distinguished, became the president of Dramatic Society of the school, was library prefect, and was very, very famous in the school because of my activities with the Dramatic Society at that time. We had a lot of competitions that we're going for. We're going for debating, we're going for all sorts of things, and I played a very prominent role in that organization. I did my first school leaving certificate. I didn't get all the papers that I enrolled for. And when I got home, I can recall one day, I was dancing and hipping up. And my dad saw me and said, "Look, your mates are in the university, you are here dancing." And that got to me very seriously. And had to go back to school to re-enroll to take my school set. And when I went back to school, I refused to go home. Even during the holidays, I stayed back in school. And I made sure I came out in flying colors. While others were going to HSCs and A levels, I got qualification. My JAM results went very well, and I got into the University of Benin. But when I got to University of Benin, I didn't get this cutoff mark for medicine that I wanted to read. So I opted for biological sciences with the hope of actually getting into medical school and get transferred from the biological sciences that I was enrolled for. But my nature is to be the best in anything I do. And in my first year when the results came out, the head of department refused to allow me to move from the biological sciences to the School of Medicine because he claimed that he cannot let out his best. And that's how I read biological sciences with the hope of graduating and going back to do medicine. And when I graduated in flying colors, I actually graduated with second class upper degree and went to do my youth service in Owerri with the Ministry of, with DFRI in Imo State. And immediately after the youth service, I came back and enrolled to do my master's in business administration. I looked at myself and saw my mates already working, going to work and all that. I didn't see the need to go back to school to read medicine where I would spend another 6 years. So I opted for business administration and went for an MBA. And after the MBA, I recalled that my dad called me and told me, I don't want everybody to go to Lagos. I want you to spend time with me and learn the ropes. And I'm sure that your brothers have moved to Lagos. Everybody cannot go to Lagos. You have to be with me here in Warri. I became his technical assistant. But what I was doing was just collecting rent and collating his share investment and all that. And he was paying me some stipends. But one day I just called myself and told myself that I can't continue with this, that this is not good enough for me. I wanted to be able to compete with my contemporaries. And for me, working for your dad is like working for yourself. And if I made all the monies in this world, they would say it's my father's money. So I just picked up my bag and told him I was going to Lagos to spend some time with my brother in Lagos. That's how I found myself in Lagos and entered the labor market. I did some interviews. I was invited. At the end of it, I got a job in EcoBank in 1995. In 1990, I got a job with EcoBank as a cashier. As a cashier, I worked as a cashier for a very long time, but Providence had it one day. I was working as a cashier, and a senior executive executive director of the bank in charge of treasury sent some transactions to my office and wanted me to handle it. And I bounced the transaction, not looking at the position that he had. And the person he sent went back to him and said, can you imagine? There's a young boy downstairs. I told him I was coming from you, and he bounced my transaction. For me, I felt I was doing what was right. And at that time, I had this thing for distinguishing myself in any way I find myself. So for me, once I know I'm doing something right, I don't care what people think and what they feel. And I was summoned upstairs to the director's office. After the director finished talking to me, he said, this guy should not be working downstairs. He called the human resources manager and told them to transfer me to the treasury department. That's how I got into the treasury department of EcoBank. And that's where my skills were exposed. And I became a marketer who go out to solicit for customers. Relationship management was fantastic. I was one of the best in my time. I remember I had some awards as the best. There was one competition that they did at that time. We had a year-end party and they made me the best dressed officer of the bank at that time. And I also had the distinguishing award as the most deposit mobilized officer in my cadre of people that we're working with. So I had a lot of things going for me as a young man. But there was something that was always propelling what I was doing. I don't engage with my peers. I made friends with people that are older than me as a principal. And because of that, I tried to want to do the things they do. Even though as an officer, I was emulating what managers were doing. You see me dressed like a manager. I used to wear suspenders in those days. And because I was mingling with them and doing what they are doing, it was very easy for me to actually accelerate in my career. And I was promoted very fast to become manager, which a lot of people find very fast. I cut my teeth. I was able to distinguish myself as manager. I started doing things beyond what a manager was doing, because then I started associating with more senior people like AGMs in the banking industry. And I made friends with people that were very close to my elder brother, Albert Okumagba, who also exposed me to a lot of things about relationship management, investment banking, and how to actually solicit and meet people. My career was very, very interesting because it was very easy for me to distinguish myself anywhere I find myself, because I go for the best. But I had an attitude at that time, because of my disposition to succeeding and having results. I tend to be very assertive, and I had some issues with people who thought I was rude, arrogant, but I was showing off results that I was getting. So I had a lot of senior people who were my supervisors who didn't see me as good enough. So I had a lot of conflict. It was this conflict that took me off to a program that exposed me to things that actually made me know that what I was looking at as eye service and all those things in having squabbles with people around me was actually relationship issues that have to do with emotional intelligence. And once I went for that program on exposure on emotional intelligence, I came back a different person, and I repackaged myself in ensuring that I had a way of relating with people, because relationship is one of the things that helped me in moving beyond what my contemporaries were. I came back, and what I used to see as eye service, I saw it as corporate politics, and I walked along those lines. But I was very fast in moving from one bank to one other bank. Before I knew what was happening, I was in my fourth bank. And I got entangled with a crisis in one of the banks where most of the people that were working at my level saw me as impossible with results. I don't want to say it's envy, but I got entangled with the squabbles of people feeling that I feel I know everything, I have everything, so I don't respect people, I don't talk to people well. And while they were contemplating and harassing me, I submitted a letter that I was going on vacation. I now went to the managing director of Oceanic Bank at that time, Dr. Cecilia Ibru. I had a lot of mentors that I looked up to, who I will mention their names as we go on. But Cecilia Ibru became one of my major propellers that actually took me beyond what I am today. When I went for that interview, I recall I went for that interview. I like repeating some of these things. She told me I was a manager then and I wanted a senior manager's position. And she told me she can't give me a senior manager's position, that she will give me a manager's position. And after the interview, I told her, Madam, you don't know me. You don't know what I can do. But if you give me the opportunity and I prove to you that I am what you expect, and you don't give me what I want, I will resign in 6 months when I join you. It came as a dare to her, and she said she has never heard this type of thing before in her life. That somebody being interviewed and is telling you that I will surpass whatever target you give me, and if you don't give me what I deserve, I will leave you. That was the parting word I gave to her, and I left and went back to work. In 3 months, I've quadrupled the reports that I met in the organization. And I like showing off with results. That's one of the things that propelled me. And by the time I started flaunting the results with my reports and all that, when I go for meetings, I do the presentation with a lot of arrogance and a lot of pride. By the 5th month, I was promoted in next level. And I was actually promoted to actually par with people that interviewed me into getting that job. 6 months later, my results also showed how I've distinguished myself, and I was promoted again. I became the number 3 officer in the bank. After the MD, the son was an executive director, I became the next general manager in the bank, senior to almost everybody in the bank. My career in banking also created the opportunity for me to network and create a lot of recreational activities that got me into joining the organizations that manage all treasury organizations. That is Treasurers Association of Bank Treasurers Association of Nigeria. In that organization, I became the public relationship officer, and that again exposed me to FITC, where I became one of the trainers who trained treasury officers, and I did that for a number of years. I also became a member of the Money Market Association of Nigeria and some other organizations. While in Oceanic Bank, I was treasurer of the bank, and in no time, I was propelled into becoming an executive director at the age of 38. At the age of 38, I was executive director of Oceanic Bank. I don't want to tell the story of how the promotion came. Normally, if you want to promote an executive director, you actually must advise CBN. It's when CBN gives the approval that you get the position, and your board of directors must also approve it. But I was doing a normal letter to my managing director one day, and I went to our office, and there were speculations then that there were some other banks that were trying to poach some staff of our bank, because the executive director, one of the executive directors from another bank, got employed in our bank, and the MD of that bank threatened that he was going to pick out the best hands in Oceanic Bank at that time. And the fear was that I was going to be one of those that would be picked, because when we were interviewing some of those officers, they were asking them, who are your best hands? And my name kept reoccurring in the discussions. And when I went in the morning to see my MD with a letter to be signed, I submitted the letter, and he just cancelled my designation and put executive director there. And I asked her, which of the executive directors do you want me to put their names? He said, you. And that's how I went to my office and told my secretary to change the designation from general manager to executive director. And everybody screamed in the office, and everybody was shouting that our guy has been promoted executive director. My executive director position came unusually in the banking industry. And I became one of the youngest executive directors at that time as executive director. I had contemporaries who were executive directors in other banks, like Lamido Sanusi, the former emir of Kano. He was executive director with First Bank, and some other key MDs that you see today. Most of them were executive directors at that time. So most of the bank MDs you see now were executive directors when I was executive director in the banking industry. I was looking forward to becoming a managing director of one of the banks, because I prepared myself to be executive director of a bank. Having worked in the treasury department, I was also given the responsibility to set up investment banking, trustees, insurance, and some financial institutions. So I became executive director in charge of treasury and financial institutions in Oceanic Bank. My career in Oceanic Bank became very, very exciting. I had to go on a vacation because I had this investment program with Canada, where I wanted to have a citizenship program so that my children can have the opportunity of having dual citizenship. So I went on a vacation that was hardly approved because of the exigency of the job, my job responsibility. Having set up some subsidiaries of the bank, I was actually working on making sure the subsidiaries break even. So it was difficult for my MD to actually give me vacation. But I was given the vacation that year, and 3 days into the vacation, while I was in Canada, I got news that the CBN governor at that time relinquished the services of 5 bank MDs and all the executive directors in the banking industry. So I got news of my disengagement from the banking industry on the social media. I want to let you know that I was very, very prominent in the banking industry in my time. On my 40th birthday, I had Aliko Dangote. I had over 10 bank MDs and captains of industries, and almost all the bank treasurers at that time were present in that 40th birthday. If you go through the social media, if you go to YouTube, you see you can download the videos from there. If I had my birthdays, you will have numbers of people send me texts. I hardly can read all those text messages at that time. I lived in a waterfront estate at that time with about 7 rooms. We have about 3 sitting rooms. We have the 7 quarters. I had everything going for me. When I go to the church, they give me the front pews to sit. And when I go to my village, most times for ceremonies, I hear the musicians sing my praises and make a lot of noise about how important I was. And I felt on top of the world. But when that issue happened, and I was relieved of my position as executive director, I got the shocker of my life. In the first few weeks, I had a lot of people who were calling and doing all sorts of sympathy calls, but all died out, and my phone just went like that. There was no messages were not coming anymore. All those people that were calling me and sending me text messages disappeared. I remember even at home, when I got home, I know the type of relationship I had with my wife at that time. I was like a lord in the house. I had stewards. In my house, I had 3 drivers. I had like 5 cars, status cars. My wife had 2 cars to herself, and 1 car was dedicated to the children. I had 2 drivers, so that if there's any emergency, I can be taken care of. When I travel, I used to travel first class. I used to also have situations where I have orderlies, police escorts. They take me to any city I go to. I get police officers and bank officers waiting for me in the airport. And I'm driving the chauffeur driving car. We go around, and when I come back, they see me back to the airport. It was exciting. But when that job left, my spouse that used to treat me like a small mini god, I come back from the office and I'm pampered with food, massage, and all sorts of things. When the job disappeared, right in Canada, there was no steward, there was no house, there was no cook, there was nobody. The wife that I used to see as very supportive turned around, and I became, I don't want to say what I went through, but technically one day, she came to me and told me, now that you are not working anymore, you have to support me. Today I'm not feeling too well. I think you should take your daughter and have them prepared for school. I took my daughter to the bathroom that day, and I was looking at her. I didn't know what to do because I've never done it before. I've never gone to the kitchen to cook or do normal chores in the house. But I saw myself doing it. And after that, it became a recurring decimal. She would come and tell me she's not feeling too well today, and I should go and make the food. I see myself go to the kitchen and start preparing food. The relationship became very turbulent, and life became unbearable, and I couldn't take it anymore, coupled with the things that I was saying. I was volunteering in a place called World Financial Group, where because of the status and my skin color, I had a young boy who did not go to university. I was assigned to him to work under him as my supervisor. When I get into the office when I was in Oceanic Bank, everybody, I was a focus, I had the attention from everybody. But in that same environment, nobody looked at me, nobody cared who I was. I saw myself as an ex-executive director of a bank, sitting in an office with about 10 different officers, writing mortgages and pursuing people to come and do investment and do mentoring for people. I did it for some time. Nobody knew what I was in the organization. Someday we were having this seminar, and we normally do the seminars every Tuesday and Thursday. And we're gathered together to pick people that will do the program. And on that particular fateful day, I've been going there. Nobody knew who I was, what I could do. So the officer that was supposed to actually take a class did not come. And they were looking for somebody who could volunteer to take the class. And I indicated interest to do it. They looked at me with a lot of surprise. What does he know? And I said they should allow me to do it. And they reluctantly allowed me to take the class. When I got to the class, we had about 22 people in the class. But immediately they saw me walk to the front of the class, about 5 of them just walked out of the class because they felt I had nothing to offer. But when I finished the program, it was one of the most exciting class that they ever had. Word went back to the supervisors and the directors in the organization that what I did was wonderful. That out of the 16 people that attended the class, about 14 of them registered to be part of what we invited them to come and do. So the next class that we're supposed to have in the Thursday of that week, all the supervisors in the class, they assigned me that same class, and all the supervisors came to the class to sit in the class. When I got to the class to give that lecture, I gave all my all to it. And when I finished the program, that was the first time the managing director called me to his office and said, "What qualification do you have? What's your experience?" Like I tell you, I like distinguishing myself anywhere I find myself. I distinguished myself. I earned my position. And from then, I was assigned a large number of mentees to start mentoring. And that's how I cut my teeth and started understanding what was going on in Canada and what they were doing and what mentorship was all about and what real estate investment was all about. I learned a lot. I also went to Rich Dad Poor Dad Institute of Wealth Education, and I took a program with them on how to manage wealth and how to understand how rich people do their things and how we can actually work to make people improve themselves. After attending that program, my eyes got opened and I saw the gap in Nigeria. I saw a huge gap of unemployment, poverty, and corruption in Nigeria, which I saw as a big opportunity. And I told myself, what am I doing in this country? I have no reason to remain in Canada. And I started planning my relocation to Nigeria. Attending Rich Dad Poor Dad Wealth Institute was the one what propelled me, because I saw that if I do the same thing I was doing in Canada in Nigeria, I will reduce unemployment in Nigeria by over 20%. So I relocated to Nigeria and I set up this organization that we are seeing today, FMG Platform Empowerment Limited, a platform that exposes people to how they can succeed in what they do or what they choose to do. I teach people how to start businesses with little or nothing. I teach people how to do real estate without $1 in their pocket. I teach people how to double and increase their business volumes, turnover, and profitability. So today, I see myself as an asset, given the opportunity that can open and collaborate with government agencies to reduce poverty and unemployment all over Nigeria. And I'm daring the world today, and Nigeria in particular, that everything we need to solve societal problems is around us. And I'm going to be telling you that as I go on to tell you the story of what I do and what I've chosen to do going forward. But my life story cannot be complete without mentioning that I have 3 lovely kids, Daniela, Daniel, and Deborah. They are currently in Canada, and they are the reason why I'm still pushing the way I'm pushing, because I want to leave a legacy behind that will make them proud that they have a father called Francis Okumagba. Because I'm going to so impact on human beings that I'm going to make wealth, making the people that I'm going to be helping the wealth that I have. I want to make them see that everything that you need to know about wealth, their dad was able to establish it. I'm not talking about material wealth. I'm talking about the wealth that you leave behind that makes people want to continue to remember you for who you are and what you have done. Because I believe that if you are somebody that has wealth in human beings, it's bigger than having the wealth of having castles that will go after some time. The type of wealth I want to leave behind is the wealth that will help millions of people open their eyes to succeed. And I want to be remembered as that person that made people who are unemployed employed. People who are jobless have jobs. People who want to do business but don't have capital, be able to start that business. People who are struggling with taking a decision on how they can actually propel their businesses, to see how they can propel their businesses. I pray that God will enable me to do what I have in my dreams to do, because it will make a lot of people happy. And I'm sure God will be happy to receive me at the end of the day, because I will have made impact and I will have justified his reason for giving me life, because I'm not going to go back the way I came.